My name is Joe Stick. If you want to know what I'm doing here, I can tell you in just 3 words. I don't know. Well, there's a heap of things I don't know. For example, I sometimes sit and look at the universe and wonder what it's made of, what its texture's like, what it would feel like on the tips of your fingers if you could touch it. Those are some of the things I've never known. The kind of thing I can only answer with a shrug of my shoulders. Look, I'll show you. What the hell. One thing I know for sure is that I've got a mission, a real objective in the game. I discovered that the day I found myself in front of a leak with a wrench in my hand. There's lots of things you just know by instinct. You have them genetically imprinted on your chromosomes. For instance, my instinct tells me that it's my job to avoid leaks. If I don't do that, the liquid starts building up, and then the ocean of uncertainty, that sea of doubts down there, gets bigger and more powerful all the time. Way down there. Want to know just how many screens down? Listen to this. No, not there yet. Or maybe it is. Who knows? Fact is that when you're dealing with the sea of doubts, you can never be sure if something has really happened or not. Okay, one thing's for sure, and that's that nature gives you a series of resources that you just have to take into account before starting any game. I got a couple of tools to work with. Reasonable time limit and 3 lives. Those are resources, and that means ability. You're either born with it or you're not. Then there are a few basic rules. For one, here, you either eat them or they eat you. You either walk on them or you're walked on. Another is that everything has its price. Example, an ordinary yellow-type Pac-Man means 50 points. If it's red, 100 points, but those are more scarce. Jumping is for free, but you lose energy. Letting yourself ride along a moving surface is free. You don't lose energy, and on top of that, it's fun. See what I mean? Okay, you're probably wondering what I'm getting at. See, I've got something really important to tell you, but first I thought I'd set you straight on how things work around here. What have I got to tell you? Well, it's like this. My story is the story of a long journey, a fantastic expedition into the unknown in which I found myself caught up in the most unimaginable adventures. And all because I left my world. Yep, that's what I did. I left my world, didn't know the way back, and wandered around the cosmos for one entire game after another. But please, find your favorite chair, take the joystick in your hand, and push the start button. The game's about to begin. It all began this one day I had an awful low score, and so I decided to go look for some easy point to add to my scoreboard outside my video game. I had never left my world before. I never would have imagined that anything other than drips, pipes, and dampness existed beyond the frontiers of my game. It was fascinating to see all of that. So many colors, so many little noises, so many points and bonuses and extra games. I discovered in amazement that nature can take many surprising forms. The richness of cosmic life. All of a sudden I had this heavy feeling at the top of my stomach, something I never felt before. It was as if I'd swallowed a sponge soaked in something slimy and it was tickling my insides. You know what it was? It was curiosity. It was curiosity that made me go deeper and deeper into stranger and stranger video games without ever worrying about how to get back. I don't know how, but I ended up in a place called Sweeping's Game. The garbage game? It seemed to me to be the ideal place to play a couple of rounds and go home with a heap of points. Why not? I said to myself, and I went into the game. As far as I could make out, the thing was to stop these stinking creatures, a cross between Space Invaders and rotting garbage bags, from filling the world with trash. For that, I would have 3 chances, 3 trash cans in which I would have to collect as much garbage as possible. Ready whenever you are, I exclaimed, and the first game began. There I was. They put the stopwatch to 0. The belt started to move. They threw me an empty can and the bag started to fire dirt. It wasn't long before I understood that my opponents were the sort that liked to do the opposite to you. No sooner would I decide to go up to meet them than they would choose to play on the other side. All I had to do was expect them not to move for them to move. And if I moved away, then sure as anything, they'd move where I'd been. The fact is, my can stayed empty, but it kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. By the time I realized it, it was too late. I desperately looked for a pause, an extra time, a hyperspace, anything, but I couldn't find a darn thing. My fate was sealed. Second game, second chance. I changed strategy. What I had to do was outrun them. I'd have to make use of my set of legs, some dazzling dribbling, and my extraordinary reflexes to anticipate their every move. That didn't work either. It was clear that this had nothing to do with my world of liquids and pipes. There I relied on my intelligence, which was far from insignificant. Okay, maybe it was insignificant. Third game, last chance. Frankly, this time I went out onto the playing field fairly demoralized. What's more, I didn't know that there was a clause in the instructions which said that the third game had to be played at double speed. Well, at least my final game was brilliant. I managed to do the unimaginable. I got 15 points. When I left the sweepings game, I wasn't too clear on which was the way back. Was it to go to the left and then straight on, or was I to head off in the direction of the northeast? For the first time, I started to get worried. Well, my sense of direction has always been on the weak side. In fact, I think I may not have it at all because I've never been able to tell the difference between left and right, or between the top and the bottom. I have never even been clear on what it means when someone tells you keep going straight ahead. I was beginning to feel nervous. I hadn't the remotest idea of where I was. I figured I'd better take a break and that way come to a calm decision. I accidentally crossed in front of the soap game, the foaming cleanser game. Maybe that would be a good place to relax and have a think in peace. And I went. The soap game turned out to be a sort of electronic bath full of strange presences. Not a very welcoming place, but it sure seemed to be the ideal place for meditating. I meditated and I meditated in order to coldly analyze the facts, as coldly as possible. I was lost in an immense universe of video games. Above, below, to the left, and to the right, there were millions and millions of screens, one on top of the other, full of horrifying things and incomprehensible games. I guessed I was going to have problems. The further I went away from my origins, the more difficult it would be for me to return. If I kept going in just any old direction, maybe I'd go into worlds that existed in other dimensions. Maybe I'd travel to universes that'd be governed by other laws. Maybe I'd arrive in places crawling with strange, inexplicable creatures, and I'd ask myself, would it ever be possible to get back from there? I coldly analyzed and analyzed and analyzed all of this. So coldly, in fact, that I started to shiver. And it got worse when I realized that I had a very serious problem. If I didn't get home before the game was over, who could tell me where I'd end up in the next game? And if things got complicated and I couldn't get back to my world soon, I wouldn't be able to stop the liquids, and the level of the ocean of uncertainty would rise and rise and rise, and everything would be flooded with doubts. The entire universe would then be turned into uncertainty, into chaos, and nobody would know anything. Nobody would be sure of anything. Everybody would be like me. The conclusion was obvious. I had to get home as soon as possible. Home. What the? I exclaimed indignantly. Isn't there any water around here? Huh? Hey! Losing your life is unpleasant. Even when you have 3 lives like I do, losing a life is always unpleasant. Especially if you look at your scoreboard and discover that your score is abysmal, and that all they offer for your scalp is a miserable 50 points. I have no idea what happened next. All I remember is turning up in some dark, dirty-looking place. My finely tuned pituitary gland sniffed the atmosphere and detected some rotten smells. My eyes squinted in the dark in search of an exit. My heart began to beat painfully. Straight away, my legs started to walk, for which my nostrils, eyes, heart, and myself were all very grateful. We wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. Well, luckily, I spotted an exit, or an entrance, I'm not sure which. I've never really understood the difference. I ended up in a place where the atmosphere was damper, hotter, and unbreathable. I walked along its passages, attracted by a strange, heavy breathing. It wasn't long before I discovered the origin of the noise. I mean, this guy seemed as out of place as myself. He looked as if he had problems, too. And before I could say anything, he came up and said,
"Hey, man, have you seen any water around here?"
"I came down with it," I answered. "I left it behind a few screens further down. I think it drained through a hole."
"All of it?"
he asked me with that tubular voice of his. "To the very last drop."
Damn it. I can't understand this obsession it has for always going down, down, down. It finds the tiniest crack and just slinks away.
"Right. Liquids are very slippery stuff. I know them well," I said. And then he went away. "Wait!" I shouted. "Wait a minute," I ran after him. "Have you seen my world?"
What world?
Why, it's a huge thing full of pipes and with a constant drip.
Doesn't ring a bell.
I gotta go home and I don't know the way.
Well, if you don't know the way, buy yourself a map of the universe.
Where?
In the Maps of the Universe game, naturally.
I began to understand some of the basic rules that govern the cosmos. Not that it was all that complicated. And how can I get there?
That's easy. Go as far as the looping game and get on the white plane. That will take you straight to the Maps of the Universe game. But make sure you don't take the black plane. The black plane will take you in the opposite direction.
Okay. And where's the looping game?
2 screens further up.
2 screens further, the maps up? Yeah, right. I got you, okay. You said the black plane, right?
Wrong. I said the white plane. The white one.
Gotcha. Hey there. Wait, what way is up, above, or below?
Good luck. You're gonna need it,
he said, and then he disappeared.